although I do a ton of sales, I think that only about 10% of my time I get to focus on sales. We import, depending on the year, somewhere between 800 and 1,000 shipping containers a year. And we sell between 40 and 45 million pounds of product a year.
Bad things happen to good people. It sucks. But it's like, it's how you react to the things that happen to you.
It all starts with the plan. Like, you can't just start thinking, oh, what am I going to do tomorrow? It's like, no, like, start thinking about it more and more in advance and stuff. We are closing the gap on 500,000 views on YouTube. But that's not the craziest part. The craziest part is that most of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. Do us a solid. Smash that subscribe button and share it with a friend.
Today we got the vice president of Smirks. He's involved in a lot of real estate deals. He's dabbled in a lot of culinary arts stuff back in the day. He's traveled over 30 countries around the world doing a lot of great stuff. He's raised a lot of money for a lot of fundraisers and helping people out, giving back to the community. So, Donny Edson, welcome to the show today.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. I want to start off by asking, because me and Erick, we're partners in this. We're family. You're involved in a lot of partnerships with family, and a lot of people say don't do partnerships, especially with family, because it always ends up bad. What are your thoughts on that?
I hope it doesn't end up bad. Yeah. But no, I think that, there is risks for that. I think you have to go into partnerships, understanding who you're going into the partnership with, what the expectations of each person is as well, and really understand what people's egos are like. Because if there's two big egos, it's probably not going to work real well. Or it might work for a little bit, but then when a tough situation comes up, it might be hard from that side. So I think that, for us, for the movie theater piece of it, we kind of treat that as a hobby. And everybody in our company has
it's a big hobby.
A niche.
It's a really big hobby.
Yeah. Each person kind of has a niche, and they focus on that. And I think that works really well. And everybody also has a very team, mindset on things. So they're willing to help wherever they can and do things wherever it is. So for us, from that side, I think that's why it flows the way it does. But and I think with partnerships, one of the important things you can do is you have to listen and understand people and hear them out. But also, you need to put yourself in their shoes and try to understand where they're coming from and why they're going that way too, right? So I'd lie if I'd say that in partnerships sometimes you don't butt heads on things. I'm sure that happens a lot. But if you can take a step back and actually communicate things out and write your thoughts down a little bit and then communicate through those and have the ability to listen and then process why somebody's doing something. And if they have the ability to listen and process why you're doing something, and then you communicate, then I think partnerships work. So at least that's my experience with it so far.
What do you look for in a partnership? Do you think it's better to find the people first and to make sure they have the right personality, the right mentality? Or do you think it's better to find the people who have something that you're lacking, like having the skills or the contacts that you might need?
I think that each instance is probably different. I think generally maybe the partnerships find themselves, and then, two people know each other and they come up with an idea, or somebody brings somebody else on board to do something and it goes that way. So if I was, starting something new with a partnership though, I would want to partner with somebody who has strengths of stuff that I'm not good at, right? And that I'm strong in things that maybe they're not good at, and then see if it makes sense to move forward from that side of things. So if I was partnering with someone to build something, I'm going to partner with somebody who does construction, right? And that they do it well and that they can follow a budget and things like that, and make sure I feel comfortable about that before I would jump into the partnership. If I was partnering with somebody to start a new business, I don't know, there's a million ways you could go with that, I guess. So it just depends what it is you're going for. But, I personally not real great at IT, this kind of stuff. I have no interest in it whatsoever, but I realize the importance of it. So I would need to rely on somebody to do that, and then just throw out ideas and see, is this even possible, or is that a good idea, or do you outsource that, or what it is from that side of it. So, but you really have to go in with an open mind. But again, for me, I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. And I don't want to do the things I'm not good at, because it'll burn you out. You'll fail. It'll make a partnership really bad. So I think knowing your place, your ideas, your value, and someone else's, and then staying in those areas is probably very important.
Hey guys, let's take a quick break from the podcast. We want to help business owners just like you stay competitive in today's marketplace. So for a limited time, we're giving you 10% off your next video project, whether it's a brand video, social media content, or ads. Just mention this podcast to get started. Let's get back to the show.
Kind of like everybody everybody kind of staying in their lane. Like, not like if you're doing this, you do that, and that's kind of. I mean, keep it separate a little bit.
I think most successful people will tell you they're smart because they know what they're bad at, right? And they don't try to do what they're bad at. So, and if you're trying to do all those different things, and I say that constantly, if I have somebody who's really good at sales, I really don't want them doing logistics. I don't want them doing accounting. I want them doing sales because they're good at sales. That's what they're good at. If I have an accountant, I don't want them doing sales. I want them doing accounting because that's what they're good at. And so I just think it's important to surround yourself with people that do what they're good at. Let them do that so you can focus on what you're good at, because that's probably the vision or the idea or the success that you're having is because you have something and you're really good at it. So find a way to be able to surround yourself with people so you can really narrow in on what you're good at and go from that way and keep your mind focused on that piece. So
what are some things you would say that you're good at, like your strengths?
I feel like I'm probably pretty good at sales. I love math. I love numbers. I like working on long-term projects as well, creating something or coming up with an idea and then putting it together from that side of it. I think I do really well in sales because I don't know why, but I remember things. I remember numbers. I remember specific events. I remember just the weirdest things that'll just pop into my head, or somebody will ask me a question and I'll say, well, in 2014 we did this and we lost this much money, and here's why. And I can remember that. I'm awful with faces though, so I can remember somebody's phone number, but I can't remember what they look like. So it's very interesting.
I think for you that you have good. For you it's probably normal, but something that because I've met you a couple times is that you can like. Right when you go into a room, like you're very friendly, you're a very people person. And for you, it's probably just like, I don't know if it just comes across easy for you, but I think that's something that you need to have, like if you're in sales, I think, because if they don't like you, if you don't come across like it's someone they like, they're probably not going to even want to do business with you.
Yeah, I think you could study it all you want. I mean, a lot of people tell you that, like, if you're good with relationships and good with people, business will happen naturally, right? Like they'll want to work with you. You can understand what their problems are. There's one way to sell somebody something of, hey, do you want to buy this from me? There's another one to say, what are your struggles? Like, how do we fix it? What do we need to do? Like, what it is. So, and with our team, we do try to, at least in Smirks, we try to, really say that we are a sales organization. Yes, ingredients are one thing we sell, but really, truly what we try to sell is solutions. So an ingredient might be a solution to your recipe, right? But you might need logistics, so we can help you with that. You might need financing, so we can help you with that. You might need something special done to a product, so we can help you with that. And in the instance that you can get customers to come to you and say, how do we do this? Is this possible? Versus how much does this cost, right? You have two different conversations going on, right? So how much does this cost? Well, it's $1. Okay, well, you're too expensive. Okay, thanks. Hey, how do we make this happen? Oh, okay, well, here's every option we have to do it. Here's the way we think we would go about it. Okay, cool. And you work through it all, and then and then you can say to them, well, what's your budget? I mean, what are you trying to be at for this? I can tell you right away if this is going to work or not. That's two different ways you're selling stuff, right? And so there's transactions, there's partnerships. Partnerships are talking through it, understanding what they're looking for, what the struggles is, why they're doing it, leading them the right direction. Transactions are, how much does it cost? Yes or no? Yeah. And so that's the way we try to view things, is go into it and look at the whole picture of it all, not just whether you can do it or not. So
We are closing the gap on 500,000 views on YouTube. But that's not the craziest part. The craziest part is that most of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. Do us a solid. Smash that subscribe button and share it with a friend.
Yeah, like one of the things, like when people talk about budgets, it's like, yes, like it could be like a sales tactic to kind of like who throws out the number first or whatever. But it's also like, how you're saying, like building that partnership, because you're trying to help that person as much as you can. Like you're not going to offer them the whole cake and they don't have the budget for the whole cake.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think too that an important thing is that I used to own a catering business when I was in college, and so that's the first question you're going to ask somebody is like, "Hey, I need catering for 200 people. Okay, what are you looking to spend on this?"
What type of food was it?
Yeah.
What type of food you cater?
I did everything. So I would do plated dinners for 400 people, down to just buffet for 10 people. So and it was customized around whatever they wanted it to be. So
what's your specialty? Would you say? Like
depends, man. Depends on the time of year. Yeah. I think. I'm really strong in Italian because I spent so much time working in Italian restaurants. Italian's the worst food possible for catering. It's very hard to execute it fresh. Cooking pasta's hard, fresh for hundreds of people. Yeah. So yet it's the one everybody likes to have. It's like, oh, can we have pasta? And I'm like, man, that's a tough one.
So you're pretty busy in college then, if you're doing that while you're going to school.
Yeah. That was one of my side gigs in college was the catering thing. We actually used to rent out the Carroll building down in Brush.
Okay.
And we started a thing called Dinner with Donny. And it just started with, we made postcards and mailed them out to everybody we knew and then asked them to RSVP and told them to bring their own wine. We got a band in there to play and we'd have 3 menu choices from what they have. They'd RSVP and send it back. I'd bring some of my chef buddies down from college. We'd literally sleep at the Carroll building with sleeping bags. We'd come down Friday night, get everything going, and then we'd camp out on the floor there, and it was a lot of fun actually. And then set it up as a restaurant, and then our friends would come and serve, and so we tried to create this culinary experience in Fort Morgan, once every couple months, and so that was really fun, and so we did that. And then my favorite job in college was delivering pizza. But so I had my catering business, and I also worked for a company called Epicurean Catering in Denver, which is still the top catering business in Denver. At that time, they were in charge of all the suites at Mile High, so we got to experience that and how they went about, feeding thousands of people for a game. But then also at Mile High, they have, banquet areas where they'd have giant parties. I think the biggest party we ever did was 1,500 people for the Susan G. Coleman. That was pretty wild, and plated dinners we did the Women's U.S. Open when it was at Cherry Hills. And so each one of those, you learned different things about how do you plan out and go about doing these.
How do you stay organized and
exactly,
especially the planning process.
The planning process. And that probably helped set me up for a lot of things actually when I was in college, because it does, you can't be over prepared. You run through every scenario so that you have it there for you. Mm-hmm. And so when you're catering in a rodeo arena in the middle of nowhere, you got to make sure you're set up and you have everything you need. So I learned a ton of stuff doing that, which then translated to my catering business. Then it turned into those guys, if they had small catering jobs, they'd send them my way, and I could go do those small catering jobs too. So I learned a lot from that. But back to what my specialties are, I love French Creole food, so New Orleans style food. I love Mediterranean food, so probably more of an emphasis, say Israeli, Lebanese food, stuff like that. But I'll just go on a tangent where I'm I need to learn everything I can about whatever Japanese cuisine or Korean cuisine or whatever it is, and then I'll just start playing around and coming up with it. And we still do, only once or twice a year, I always donate a dinner for 10 people. It's a bourbon dinner for 10 people, and we do it at our house, and a bunch of our friends come and help. And so what we do is we come up with craft cocktail menus, and so we did an Israeli one, and so it was we used pomegranate molasses, one of the drinks. We used walnut syrup, we used caramelized date syrup, all these different things that kind of fit into that area of the world, and then made cocktails based around those with bourbon being the liquor in them. And so everybody comes and they sit down and we just feed them for hours, and then they get to come down into my bar and get full access to my bourbon collection.
There you go.
And then we nerd out about what different bourbons mean and why they're made this way, or what's a rye, or what's barrel proof, or what's whatever it is, what's bottled and bond mean. And so
how'd you come around to doing the dinners that you put? Why did that?
What? I started with I'm trying to think how we came up with the first time to do that. Most of it was my wife, I think, was upset with how much bourbon I was accumulating. So I said, we can put it to good use. So, watch this.
Don't throw it away.
When I was I think when I turned 30, I was all right, I'm 30. I'm a business guy. I think I'm supposed to drink scotch. So I started collecting scotch. So I went to Kyle at East Platte. I'm all right, I'm going to get into scotch. So he started giving me different scotches. And
Was it
one
good?
weekend he had a Scotch tasting, and so the next weekend he had a bourbon tasting. And as soon as I started tasting the bourbons, I was like, these are like 10 times better than the Scotch. And
So were you kind of just forcing yourself to drink the Scotch?
I was just, we'd go and my buddies would all do the same thing. We're drinking Scotch now, and which is enjoyable, right? Bourbon just blows the socks off Scotch. So first time when I had the bourbon tasting, I was like, man, Kyle, I need to start a bourbon collection. And that was when bourbon was like very accessible and inexpensive. And so we started buying different bottles, and then he'd have his bourbon events, and we'd start getting more bottles, and it eventually evolved into, I forget what the first time we did it, but we hosted a fundraiser for a family, and on the auction I donated a bourbon dinner for 10 people at my house, right? And it sold for like $5,000. So we were like, well, this is something, so that we should do this. And so the main one I donate every year is for the MCC Foundation. And they auction it off at their gala, and then we do it at our house. And so I think the most it's ever sold for is $10,000. And
wow.
At that point, I was like, I'm gonna have to like catch an eagle to feed these guys. I don't even know what you're supposed to feed them.
What do I give them?
Yeah. and that's how it all evolved. So we have a lot of fun with that. I even have chef friends that come down from Denver and help do those as well. I think mostly so they can get into my bourbon, but that works fine for everybody.
I
think it's all about just creating that experience for them.
It is, yeah, and
not so much the food or the plated dinner.
You know what? There's
experience.
nothing better than when you get a group of people from Morgan County that maybe have never experienced any cuisine from certain things. So when you serve Israeli food, for example, and you're making lamb ragu and serving it on hummus, and they're like, "What is hummus?" And you go through it all, and then or baba ganoush, which is burnt eggplant that you make into a dip. And so to keep putting all these new flavors in front of them and different things that they never even knew existed, and then watch their reactions is great. One time we had some people come over, and I'd asked if they had any food allergies. They said just no vegan food. So I made a vegan dish for them, and it was I took cauliflower and cashews, and I simmered it for a long time in vegetable broth and made a sauce out of it. And then we charred a bunch of different squash and zucchinis and peppers and put that in there. And then we blistered tomatoes and put it on top of there. And then we did some stuff with some sweet corn with some like Turkish chilies that we put on there. All these things, right? And some pine nuts. And they were just like, this is insane. When they all got done, I said, that was vegan. They're like, no way. Like, no, that was a vegan dish.
That's what it was.
It's fun to mess with them a little bit from that side of it too.
Seems like you're so busy with all this stuff. Like feels like when you go down like a rabbit hole, like you go down and like you go all the way.
I do.
So like, how do you have time for all this stuff?
There's always the balance of it, but you can get a lot done if you wake up early in the morning. I'll say that, right? Like you can get a lot more done if you wake up at 4:30 in the morning. You have a lot of time to focus on projects or take care of yourself or whatever it is. So I'm an early riser. I've always been an early riser, and so that helps with it. But I have a great support group too. My wife supports everything, especially if it's something that also intrigues her a little bit. So that helps a lot. At Smirks, we have a great team there as well, so it gives me the freedom to be able to try different things. But I just do everything one day at a time. Like today I'm going to focus on this and go focus on it, and then I'm gonna focus on this and go focus on it, and just keep going, and then as something comes together, then you just do it. But truly, one day at a time.
How important is it to have a life partner like your wife on board with all the stuff that you're doing? Because it's I'm asking because I see there's a lot of stuff like social media stuff, like they're really successful business wise, but then like they've had like 3 or 4 divorces, or they have a bunch of kids everywhere. Like being able to have a successful business with a strong life partner and being available with your kids and going to all their events, because I see you go to your daughter's baseball stuff, and I've seen you there, so it's like, and you're doing all this cooking stuff, ready to.
It's priorities.
Huge.
I mean, truly. I mean, if you prioritize your business over your family, your business will probably succeed, and your family will probably fail. Like for me, my family's number one. So it has to be about how it influences that, and then you make decisions based around that. So before I had kids, I might spend 100 days a year overseas. Once I had kids, and then COVID happened, I'm like, I don't really want to go overseas at all anymore. So I go when I have to, but I hired somebody in my company and taught them what to do, and here's what we're going to do, and they go take care of it for me, and they love it, right? They love getting to go all the time from that. So, but I think that you have to have if you are in a relationship, I think Melissa helps keep me in check on a lot of things too. my brain doesn't turn off, so I'm constantly just throwing ideas out, and it seems like opportunities are there's always an opportunity, right? And so knowing what to actually jump into and do and have everybody on board, you have to be on the same page for it, right? Like, because if you do something that your significant other doesn't approve, you've already set yourself up for failure on it, right? It's a no-win situation, right? You're either going to make them more upset, or you're going to fail at this side of it and you're going to be upset. So you have to go into it realizing everything and be on the same page with it all. So that's very important. So Mel's really good at telling me that's a bad idea or no as well. Like, absolutely not. Okay, thanks. On to the next one.
Yeah. No, that's huge. I'm just asking because I see a lot of stuff. Someone's like, if there's, like, for me, family's first. For sure.
It's one of our core values.
That's one of our core values for our company too. Like, whatever you need, family first, you take care of that. If you're not good at home, you're not going to be good here.
Yep.
But I'm always trying to be very aware, like, I like what this guy's doing successful, and then you look at his personal life and it's not as good. I'm like, for me, it doesn't throw it all away, but it throws a lot of the credibility away of how I want to operate and run a business. But I think you see, like, okay, their business is good, their life is good, their personal life, with their marriage, their kids, like, okay, let me learn more about them, because that's kind of like what you would want to, I guess, emulate to a certain extent, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm always interested in know,
it's like
what you're doing behind the scenes, because my daughter, my daughter's 7, my son's about to be 3, and I was like, okay, what?
Yeah.
Those years would go by quick, so you want to be there.
That's important to focus on that. And, luckily for us who like the movie theater, our kids love the movie theater, so it's okay to bring them down
win-win,
there.
Huh?
Yeah, it's okay to bring them down there and teach them some of the stuff. So I think that's a pretty important piece of it. But I also like to try to teach our kids some of the things that I find that are successful, so Abby, she'll be 7 tomorrow, but she wanted to have a lemonade stand last year. So we're like, absolutely, we'll help you with everything, but no one's going to know about it if we don't do marketing. What's marketing? Okay, here's how we do marketing, right? And who's every person you can think of? Let's send them a text message. Okay, cool. Let's tell everybody in all of our neighborhood. Let's do that first. Here's everything you have to do ahead of time to lead up to it, right? And then when the day came, we were blown away by how many people came and how much money they gave her. But man, at the end of the day, she was just like so proud of herself for doing this lemonade, and she busted her butt the whole time too. That like Mel and I were just like, this is awesome.
That's
like
awesome,
I'm
yeah.
so proud because she's so proud of herself, right? Like, it's one thing to say, I'm proud of you, but it's another thing to say, you should be so proud of yourself, like, and to make them feel that piece of it, right? And she did. She stood taller all day from it. And she did it because she wanted to get some more Barbies. So then it was like, okay, well, look, whatever. You have $180 profit here. You can have a third of it, and then we're going to invest the rest. So, and here's what's going to happen when we invest it. It'll still be there. You'll still have it for something, but you don't need to spend it all. So then we took her to Walmart with $60 to buy Barbies, and she was it was like awesome, man. I mean, literally the thought of a kid in a candy store holding her money real close and going in there and getting to choose it out. So, and so that was really fun thing for us to do from there, but still try to instill some of the things that from a business side, that I find important, or just whether you need your kids learning about business. I just think it's important for them to learn to come up with an idea and execute it and see how to do it and then see the successes of it. And so,
how are you? Were you pumped when she's like, "Hey, I want to do a lemonade stand"? We're like,
"Yeah,
let's go," because you're in business. You're like, "Let's go."
I took it to the next level this year. She's like, "I want to do a lemonade stand again," and I was like, "I have a better idea." Like, we built the new Smirks office is at the golf course. It's the old country club. We remodeled that into our office. So we have an office there. So I said, let's set up at the office for this golf tournament and sell iced coffee. So then for like 2 weeks, Mel and I played around with ways to make like a cold brew espresso. Like, how do you get the most strength coffee into a liquid form, cold brew. Because you can't be brewing espresso outside.
Yeah.
So we came up with that recipe. So then we decided to do an iced coffee stand, and so it was just you take a cup of ice, you put a couple pumps of syrup in there, you put some coffee in there, and you put milk in there, and that was something that Abby could do. Like, she could do that. I mean, $5 for a coffee, and it's even amount, and she could do the math in her head on that. And so we did that this year, and it was insane.
How'd it go?
So she had $380 after she paid us for expenses. Then she donated $180 to the or excuse me, she donated $100 to the charity that they were doing the golf tournament with. So she ended up with.
That's awesome.
Wow.
She ended up with. How did just 280?
280.
280, I think she ended up with. Yeah. So we let her $140, and she put it with a money she had left over from her Bobby fund, but then she was very particular about what she buys so she could save some for next time. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was fun. So the next thing we're gonna do.
Next thing you'd be like,
this one's crazy. This was 100% Dad's idea. Like I go to these trade shows and they have the. Have you ever been in the grocery store where you can grind your own peanut butter?
Yeah.
It has the machine where you can grind your own peanut butter.
Yeah.
So
you haven't checked it out? They have like King Supers and stuff.
Oh,
like that.
you can
That's
come
what
check it out. I go to the office now. So yeah,
Okay.
I was at this trade show in Denver, and the company that sells that, they'll sell you the machine for a discount at a trade show because they don't want to take it home with them. So I went up to him and I'm like, man, I've been wanting to buy one of these machines from you for years. I want our daughters to have a peanut butter business, you know. And at Smirks, we sell millions of pounds of peanuts already. So we have truckloads of them in our warehouse in Denver. So we have the peanuts, right? And so we bought the machine, brought it down to our office, and they gave us like 45 pounds of honey roasted peanuts, which are delicious. And we've been making honey roasted peanut butter. And so the plan is to start a peanut butter business where they can, you know, get a set group of customers, send out what flavors you're going to do for the month, have them order it, and go deliver it once a month to start with. So that's the next step, is this peanut butter business. But then I have to also remember my kids are very young. So
She's like, Dad, I'm 7. I'm barely going to be 7.
Man, this is
I
gonna
just
be
want
an
more
awesome.
Barbies.
I'm like, this is gonna be an awesome project. Everybody eats peanut butter, right? Yeah. So
That's funny.
yeah, so
That's great, though.
Setting her up for success, though.
Yeah, I think it's
Learning
cool
those
to-
lessons, like first of all, the planning stage is very important. Like it all starts with the plan. Like you can't just start thinking, oh, what am I going to do tomorrow? It's like, no, like you got to take it, start thinking about it more in advance and stuff.
Exactly.
There's an interesting stat. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they're talking about like middle class homes, and then like more, and then like higher income ones. The ones that are like the poor family homes, they I guess they hear like more negative stuff from like 0 to 18. It's like 500,000 times. Middle class is like 100,000 times that they're hearing negative stuff, and then higher income households, they're hearing 100,000 more positive stuff.
Oh, interesting.
So that's interesting, like when, especially with kids and it's stuff like that, because you're like, and it's a perfect example, like right there, you're impulsing like, hey, have you ever thought about this? Good job, I'm proud of you. And if it's the other way around, like it sucks, but you know, it doesn't necessarily go that way.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, but it just depends on the day, because 3-year-olds are tough.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I go up sometimes, they're climbing up the pantry, and I'm just like, oh my God.
It's funny you bring it up, because I read I just finished a book a few weeks ago, a Warren Buffett book about management. And I'm reading another book right now that's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Sounds good.
And they both talked about how you don't criticize an individual. You don't criticize them. You praise an individual. You can criticize like the category or the thing or whatever it is, but you don't criticize the individual, because it's just never, they're going to shut off, or they're going to be afraid to try something. It's the same concept with kids too, right? Like, yeah, why would you do that idea with a lemonade stand? That's so stupid, or whatever it is, you know, more.
Yeah.
Well, it could be tough to have a lemonade stand. Here's how we can go around that, right? So
Yeah.
it is looking at it, but you know, you don't want to criticize the individual. You know, maybe if somebody makes a banking mistake, you can talk about, well, banks are tough. We can all agree with that, right? So, but here's what we can do to help you. So,
Or this problem is the problem, not you. Like let's work together to improve the problem and fix it.
Yeah, and I think it's important with kids too. I mean, anybody, like one of the easiest choices you're gonna make every day is your attitude. So you can choose to be angry. You can choose to be happy. Like that's your choice.
Attitude and effort.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you must have had Chisholm.
That's what I got it from.
Yeah, I never had him, but I interviewed a kid in a scholarship, and he brought that up. So.
I heard that. So that was one of the things that I heard when I was like in high school. He's coaching us and stuff. And you're just like, okay. At the time, you're just like, I mean, you got the testosterone going. You're 18.
Yeah.
You're like,
Whatever.
And now you're just like, in everything that there is attitude and effort. Like bad things happen to good people, and it sucks. But it's like it's how you react to the things that happen to you. But I'm going to go back and ask you a little bit about, because when you first came on with Smirks, you guys doing about $1 million, you said. Now it's like close to 85, 90. How was the transition from when you came on to this? Like, what did you guys start doing differently? What were you implementing differently?
Yeah, I mean, Smirks crazy story and how it started and how it evolved into what it is. So, Smirks was originally owned by Erick Grain, which used to be the sunflower seed facility here in Fort Morgan. And they started in the early 2000s with chocolate-covered sunflower seeds and taking sunflower seeds, covering them with chocolate, and then trying to sell them to grocery stores or gas stations. It kind of evolved into a company that started selling a little bit of bulk stuff. And really in like 2007, Nick, my partner there, he came on because it was his family's business and said, like, this retail business makes no sense unless we really dive into it, do it the right way. The bulk business still makes sense. And they did the bulk business from 2007 to 2010. And it's pure chance that I ended up like at Smirks because I was in Las Vegas and I called Nick to tell him a story. And then I had mentioned to him, hey, I'm thinking about moving back to Colorado. I might open a restaurant. I might start a catering business. I'm not sure yet. And it was like the exact same day that his dad said, hey, we don't need to do Smirks anymore. And he said, can I have Smirks? And he said, yeah. And then Nick was like, well, I don't have time to do this. What am I going to do? And I called him. So he's like, well, come back and run this. I was like, oh, what is it? What do you do? The best description I can give is try to sell stuff for more than you pay for it, right? Like pretty much any business. So. And
a little different than what you were doing.
Yeah, it's way different. Yeah. So I came back and started on March 1st of 2010, and Nick said, like, here's the customers we have, here's a Rolodex, here's a computer, good luck. I was like, okay. So cool. So I just dove into it and studied it and learned. And we make mistakes to this day still of things that we shouldn't do. And Nick and I call it paying tuition. So no, we're just paying tuition. So I have like 12 doctorate degrees now. How much tuition I think I paid
That's great.
in the last 15, 16 years. But really for me, starting out there, it was cool because it was something I had never done before and I could just be fully invested in and learn about. And it's came back to relationships, as we talked about. So it was really getting to know people and then understanding what they needed and then finding people who had that stuff. So I was fortunate in the early days because Nick was still traveling internationally to these shows to sell sunflower seeds, so I got to go along with them. And so I get to listen to what customers talked and ingredients they talked about besides sunflower seeds that they bought. And so then I could ask them questions about that. Like, well, who's somebody good to buy that from? Who do you like from that, Or I could go wander around these international trade shows and find people who sold cashews and be like, tell me everything there is to know about the cashew business. Is it a business I should get into? Does it make sense? And then I'd come home and call people that we knew and say, hey, I met a cashew supplier. Do you think if I brought in cashews, you would buy cashews from us? And it really just started with like one ingredient and then two ingredients, and one customer and then two customers, and it just grew organically forever, and it still does to this day. So certainly we've learned so much over the years. We still are learning stuff now too. It's pretty easy when there's only a couple of you doing stuff, but as it evolves and then you get a whole team of people, then that whole different element of you're not just doing what you used to do now, you're managing people as well, right? And they've put a lot of trust in you to come work with you as well. So you got to make sure you take great care of them. And then there's the whole business side of things too. And I think whatever the song is, more money, more problems. It's no lie.
Yeah.
The problems just get bigger. So, if you sell 100 orders and there's always a problem with one order, and now you sell 1,000 orders and you'll have 10 problems. That's just the reality of it, right?
Uh-huh.
Like you're still at 1%. It's just 1% of a bigger number.
Yeah.
So it's just more problems. So
Go for it.
How was that transition of like, it was just like you and Nick kind of just running everything and then having to start managing people? Like how difficult were those growing pains?
I was solo for the first couple of years. It was just me. And so, but it was so slow, it didn't matter, right? Like you have to understand, like if you sold $1 million, well, back then, if you sold a load of walnuts, it might have been $200,000. So that might have been 20% of your sales. So at that time. Really 2012 is when we started to build a little bit of a team with 2, then 3 people. And then, and Nick was still focused on the sunflowers too. He came back into Smirks and I think it was 2015 is when he came back in. And that's when we really put our heads down to grow and do things the right way. 'Cause you learn all the struggles, man. I mean, like time. Are you doing things the right way? You're not doing them the right way. Maybe trusting people that you shouldn't have trusted, both as customers or suppliers. The struggles of hiring people and teaching them stuff that's in your head and making sure that you can get it out and giving up control. It's hard, you know, when you're doing everything to start delegate and give up control, right? And then, you know, financing a business too, right? Like, so, you know, getting to that level where a bank will take you serious. Once you do, then it's much easier to grow. The bank will grow with you if you're doing it in a good way. And so, yeah, so for those first few years, I mean, we had some wins, we had some falls, but then now with Nick in there, it's great because we can truly come up with ideas, bounce ideas off each other. We know who's good at what. Nick loves reading long contracts and talking with lawyers. I hate it. So
That's perfect.
I'll do it if I have to, but I hate it, right? I'm good at sales and building relationships and seeing a big picture of we could do this and move it this way and do this and do this way. Like, you know.
What did your day consist of the most now? Is it more like the actual sales of it, or more managing that the sales guys are doing this stuff?
A normal day, I'll give you an example. Just a couple days ago, right? So I got up at 4:30 to work out, and then I immediately was talking to somebody in Indonesia. 4:30, 5 a.m. is a good time. You can catch people almost anywhere around the world, right? Like, so in Asia, it's anywhere from 12 to 14 hour time difference, but they're still around. So I talked to somebody in Indonesia, and then I immediately called somebody in Sri Lanka, and then I called somebody in India. And then as the offices open up, you know, kind of in this time region, then I start talking to people in South America. So I'm gathering information all morning to come in to be able to answer stuff for customers or people on our team. So first thing I'm doing every day is talking with people overseas on things, whether it's where's our shipments at, or what's this market doing, or what's changed from last week, or whatever it is, or just calling, you know, it was your kid's birthday. How'd it go? What'd you guys do? Things like that. And then I'll come into the office and I usually check in with most of my department heads just to make sure there was nothing going on. And then if there was information that I'd gathered either the night before or that morning, I share it with the people who needed it in the company so that they can go right out to our customers and give them information first thing in the morning from that side. And then it's, I don't know, I feel like I'm always a day behind. So I usually re-go through all my emails from the day before. And I have an assistant who monitors all my emails for me and flags stuff, but I still like to just lay eyes on everything. And then from there, it just depends on the day. But I mean, we have a lot of different department meetings inside of our company, which are very important, that happen weekly. We have an executive leadership team of the top people in our company that we meet every 1 to 2 weeks. I have other people that are on the executive leadership team that I meet with daily just to go over stuff as well. And then the day evolves from there. So yeah, it truly just depends on the day on things. So, and then I get to, if I have downtime, I call customers, I talk to them, or I call people around the country and I talk to them, and just to understand things. And I love gathering information to make decisions on, because in our business, the kinds of ingredients we import are very specialized. For example, chia seed comes from like 3 places, but Paraguay is the biggest one, right? So if you think you have enough information, and there's 50,000 metric tons, well, a metric ton's 2,200 pounds, so you can do the math for how much chia that's how much chia there is.
It's a lot of chia.
Yeah, that's how much chia there is. But you can, you know, if you're reading the market right and you know where things are at, that's a small enough product that you can take a huge position on and wipe out part of the stuff and start to corner a market on too. So if you're smart about it. So I'm constantly trying to make very educated decisions on, does it make sense to buy a bunch of this, or does it make sense to not buy any of this? Does it make sense to go encourage customers to contract this? Does it not make sense to encourage customers to contract this? So a lot of my time is literally processing information and make these really, really big decisions to set our company up for success, but mostly our customers up for success. Like you don't want to lead them the wrong way on something.
How do you get to like that level where you start thinking more long term?
I think it's come with experience, to be honest. Like a lot of the markets and things that I follow and manage, I've just been doing for so long that what's going to happen after El Nino wreaks havoc on Southeast Asia for 2 years. You know exactly how it's going to play out. You know who are the good companies to buy from. You know who are the bad companies. It's just from experience of living it twice, right? Like, this is the third time I've done this. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen with the coconut market, how bad it's going to get, who's not going to ship their stuff, what's going to happen, and then when it's all going to end, what's going to happen. You know, we've lived it and done it that way. So if you can remember and pull on the data from that side of it, and then and what's good too is if you've guided customers through this before and they go and they believe you and know that you're telling them the accurate information and you're guiding them the right way, then they stick with you too, right? They bring more stuff to you from that side. So yeah. And then the rest of my days, I probably drink like 12 cups of coffee and maybe work out again. Yeah. But it's all over the place. So although I do a ton of sales, I think only about 10% of my time I get focused on sales, and the rest is managing a business. So, and looking for things too. You're constantly, when we import, depending on the year, somewhere between 800 and 1,000 shipping containers a year. And we sell between 40 and 45 million pounds of product a year. And everything has a shelf life. So you have to constantly manage it. Constantly manage it to make sure that everything's going the right way. And, and there are times where you made a bad decision, and so you need to get rid of that immediately. Like, don't think that it's going to change around. So just rip the Band-Aid off and go to the next thing. So, anybody who deals in these kinds of things knows that you're going to take a loss on something sometimes. But my concept is like, take it first thing in the morning, get it over with, so you got time to make it up all day. So don't wait till the end of the day, so it's the only thing you're thinking about. So
that's huge. I like that.
What's some business or life advice that you would tell Donny, younger Donny?
Oh man, that's a great question. Have fun, read books, really learn to talk to people. And again, I think relationships are just so important, and knowing what people are about. And I think as you get older, you might learn that the more you let somebody talk and you get to know them and you let them talk and keep going. I mean, I read one time that like you'll make more friends in 2 months by asking them questions and listening to them than you'll make in 2 years by talking about yourself. So I think that that's probably something important to do. Also, patience. Like, right? What's the saying? The days are long, but the years are short. Right? Mm-hmm. And so, you can't do it all right away. And I think that's probably something that people struggle with when you come out of college in your 20s and you're on top of the world is, dude, find something you like and dig into it and become a master of it. Get to know it really, really well. Also, I would totally still take risks. Like, bet on yourself, take a risk. Yeah. And, because if you do it and you work yourself out of it and it's successful, you're that much better. If you fail, learn from it so you can do it again. So that was a good question, though.
Yeah, I like that, because especially like in your 20s, I mean, you got, like, if you're going through your 20s, like you just want to get started, get going fast and do it now. But then in the grand scheme of things, like you got time. Take risks, because if you fail, you still got time to bounce back and do something else. Yeah,
I wish that we had learned about compound interest when we were young, and investing, and taxes, and all those things that you learn about when you're older, right? So you can have a head start. I had a chicken business in high school, right? So I'd get chickens when they were little babies, and I'd raise them up, and then we'd get them butchered, and we'd sell them to everybody. Man, I blew all that money at the Tommy Hilfiger outlet store in Loveland. Or I had like 10 bottles of stupid cologne. Curve, you remember Curve?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, if I'd known anything about saving any of that money, and I was fortunate that, do you guys know Jeff Showerman at all? He's a financial guy here in town, and I think when I was 18, he said, look, you're going to put $50 a month into this account. And he's like, if you have it in your checking account, you're going to blow up. So you're going to put $50 a month into this account. And I was like, what? Okay, fine. I'll put $50 a month. Well, by the time I was in my mid-20s and we had our first opportunity to buy some real estate, there was enough money there to do the down payment that I needed. And when I was in my mid-20s or late 20s, real estate was pretty bad. I mean, it was pretty cheap. Mm-hmm. So that was a time when you could actually buy a property for less than what it was worth, and then finance it for what it's worth, and actually get some cash back to then go buy another property and keep that cycle going, and build some big portfolio of properties. But the only reason that I had the money to even start that process was that he had convinced me to put $50 a month away when I was 18. And I just did it every month. I put $50 a month away, and it compounded and it grew. And by the time I needed some money, it was there. And so I wish that people would learn more about that when they're young. I try to teach young people about that. Even today, you get employees that might be in their 30s and they don't understand why you want a 401k, or what it means to have a 401k, or what it means when the company will match 6% of your 401k, or any of that stuff. And so when you actually sit them down and lay it out to them to say, hey, like, if you're 22 and you put $200 a month into this, and the company matches the $200 a month that you put into this, when you're 60, you'll have $1.5 million if you only put $200 a month into this. What? I'm like, yeah, that literally, yeah. No one teaches that, right?
And then they just got to give up that short-term thing of like going to the outlets and just buying all that stuff with the $200.
Exactly.
Like, hey.
Or just, this is the way compound interest works against you. So when you decide you want a new car and for some reason you finance it at 12%, in 5 years you paid for that car 2.5 times. So this is the way it works against you. So I mean, I think you guys agree. Like, no one taught us that stuff in school, right? Like, or if they did, I wasn't paying attention. But so
I didn't catch it in school either.
Yeah.
But I mean, the beautiful thing now is like, I'm sure your daughter's gonna know her stuff when.
Oh yeah, they'll know what's up.
Yeah, they'll know what's up when they're coming up.
My nephew's in college now, and when he was 8, I sat him down and said, I used forks.
Okay.
So here's 1 fork. Okay. In 7 years you'll have 2 forks, and then 7 years from there you'll have 4 forks, and then another 7 years you'll have 8 forks, and that's how it works with $1. If you start investing, in 7 years it'll double, and in 7 years it'll double, and that's if you don't put any money into it. If you're adding money, you start doing that. And so we started with him a little investment account, and so when he'd mow the lawn, he'd have us put the money in there. When he'd get money for graduation, whatever, he'd put the money in there. And now he just graduated college, and he has his first job, and he's got his all figured out. Okay, here's how much I can put in my IRA. Here's how I'm going to max my 401k, and here's how much disposable income I'll have to live off of. Not a lot of like 22, 23-year-old people think that way. So.
Yeah.
But man, what an advantage he's going to have in life when he gets into his 30s. Like it's going to be gigantic for him. So
that'd be huge.
Yeah.
Well, Donny, appreciate you for coming on. Giving us some of your time to learn about you.
Man, are we done, huh?
Yeah, it's good.
We got to do it again. We got so much more to talk about.
Right? We can sit here for hours. I know.
Yeah.
But no, appreciate your time though.
Yeah,
awesome.
You bet, guys. Well, thanks for doing this. So.